Man, the best way to live your guys' lives, I promise you, is thinking of life in terms of vibrational frequency. Okay, what frequency are you vibing on a day-to-day basis from the minute you wake up to the minute you put your head on the pillow and go to sleep? Because I like to reflect on, my life in the past before I kind of knew all this stuff and how it applied to my life back then. And the one that I want to talk about today is revenge and the importance of never seeking revenge. Especially, and I'm just gonna get pretty personal with my experience, but when I went through my first breakup of a long relationship, something that basically every single high school kid goes through, right? But when I went through my first one, I did not seek revenge, and that was one of the greatest decisions up to this point that I ever made in my life, because it taught me what good karma was. It taught me in that moment that if I just sent nothing but love to the person, even though they did something wrong to me, I will be rewarded for it. And this was happening before I understood this, right? Because when someone did me wrong, instead of seeking hate, instead of trying to get revenge, instead of trying to, get mine, I guess you could say, I just purely sent love. And the reason for that is because love, search up the vibrational frequency chart or the low frequency emotion chart, search up that. And you'll see at the top, one of the top frequencies is love, operating based out of love. And that's why whenever you are going through a problem, a tough time and adversity, you have to find it in you to send love to another person, to another thing, to a group of people in a conversation. You have to find it in you to seek that love. And the sensory world is not going to encourage this, because I remember when I went through my first breakup and I had a bunch of people telling me, fuck that bitch, fuck that shit, do this, do that, fuck that shit, all this stuff. And there was a huge part of me that wanted to buy into that, a huge part of me. I would be lying if I said I wasn't. I was going into my senior year of high school. I was emotional. I didn't really know how to control my own emotions, but there was something inside of me that told me to just not do anything. And you know what? From the outside looking in, the sense world looked at me as a bitch probably. They probably looked at me, Damien's a fucking bitch. That's probably the way they looked at me then, but look at me now and all the things that I learned from that experience, from only sending love. That senior year was up to that point the best year of my life. No doubt about it. The things that went my way, the love that I was operating off of was so attractive that I was able to attract just the best people around me in that time. I was able to have the most fun, although that fun was low frequency activities, and I would feel my worst when I would make mistakes because I would commit to vices. But for the most part, my senior year, I was vibing very high, and I largely accredit it to me never seeking revenge in that moment. And I want you to think of it like this now. What you give is what you get. What you give is what you get, and there's no doubt about that. Everyone has heard that, but how many of you guys have actually lived by that? Because I see a lot of people out here drifting, just sending shitty emotions to an individual on the other end of the conversation, just whether they're ignoring them through their phone, whether they have poor body language, whether you're giving them no time of day. When you do that to another individual, what you're giving in that conversation is what you're going to get right back. You might not get it back from that individual, but you're going to get it back later in the day or maybe tomorrow morning. You will have to pay that karmic debt. And let's talk about karmic debt here, because karmic debt, I believe in karma. I feel like every time I ask someone if they believe in karma or not, they always say yes. But why are you guys not exercising good karma? Like, why are you not taking full advantage of building up good karma? Because let me tell you something, that whenever your conscience tells you to do something, whenever your conscience is calling you to wake up earlier, to go work out, to eat healthier, to stop committing devices, to have a better attitude towards people, towards your homework, towards your work, when your conscience is calling you to raise your frequency. And every time that you sleep in, every time that you eat like shit, every time you skip your workout, every time you give bad energy to another person, every time you complain about your homework, every time you complain about your job, every time you complain and give shitty attitude to anyone or anything, you're building up karmic debt in that moment. Because you're giving the FU to your conscience, right? You don't just build karma by treating other people wrong. Let's actually make sure that you understand this. You don't just build up karma by treating other people wrong. If you treat yourself wrong, you're building up karmic debt. Because your conscience is calling you. And every time that you give it the middle finger, you're building up karmic debt, building up karmic debt, building up karmic debt. So much karmic debt to the point where you don't believe in yourself anymore. You have no self-confidence. You have no self-belief. And if you feel that way right now, that you have no self-belief, self-confidence, any of that, it's because your karmic debt is so built up that your subconscious mind is working against you at this point. That's all that's happening, but this is reversible. And we do that through the daily habits. We do that through the early wake-ups, the workouts, the good attitude, the eating. We can reverse this karmic debt. Especially a lot of you guys watching, I know you haven't done the worst shit. I hope not. And if you have done the worst shit, you're gonna have to work a little bit extra hard and put in a little bit extra work to pay that karmic debt off. But if you're just a Joe Schmo, like I was just a Joe Schmo, 2 to 3 years ago. Taking my habits seriously is what changed my life and what built up all this good karma and what allowed me to receive answers from the universal conscience. And now I'm walking this path that God has laid out for me, and I'm walking it in such a smooth way. Of course, there's still so many obstacles and adversities for myself as well. But I've already come to the agreement with myself that I'm not going to quit, that I'm going to learn from every mistake, that I'm going to have a positive, optimistic outlook on everything in life, and then I'm just going to keep pushing and moving forward. I've already made that commitment to myself, and I believe in myself because I've been doing it for long enough. And you can do that exact same thing if you just commit to good habits, reversing your karmic debt, and never seeking to give negative energy to someone else, starting off with revenge. You don't need any revenge. You need to grow the fuck up. That's all it is. I love you guys. Hope you have a good one. Let's keep getting to fucking work. Build the best version of yourself.